Hello, BookTube. I'm hoping that this is working. It's been so long since I did this, uh, but I seems like it's just fine. So I'm gonna pursue this as if no huge length of time had passed since the last time we did a Steve stream. In largely the same way, I will regale you with a few stories, and then I will move straight to the chat because we're wrapping up at 10 past the hour, and I simply cannot go long. So I've got stories, all sorts of stuff. Uh, some of you will be interested. Is earlier today I did a Brattle book haul. I went to the Brattle bookshop first this morning, and two of the books that I got were ex-library copies with library junk all over them. And in the video, I said, "Well, don't you worry, I will clean them up. You will never know that they were library copies when I'm done with them." And I wanted to show you that because some of you were interested. Some of you have been emailing me, asking me how I do that. This is the first one, this Malgudi thing that had all sorts of stuff all over it. The one thing that I couldn't do anything about was this slight impression up here, and I might still be able to do something with that, but I don't think you'd be able to tell that that was ever a library book. And a much bigger success was the Isaac Babel volume that is completely clear of anything. It's just a, you'd never know. You'd never know that it was a library version. So I wanted to show you that. And then I could tell you a story. Last week, you remember last week I went to the Brattle. I tend to go to the Brattle every week. And I was on my way there on a surprisingly crowded subway car. Ridership on the MBTA, the T here in Boston, has gone up quite a bit. And that's purely because it is being responsibly run and run in a friendly manner. The new management of the T is now years old, but still feels new. They have decided not only to prioritize reliability, and cleanliness, but also to install at every station a group of people, T employees, whose only job is to greet people, talk to them, solve any problems. And then you go to a booth, don't need to hunt somebody down from the MBT police, just have to talk to this person who's right there and asking you if you need help. So I was on the subway and I was seated down and I had my bag on my shoulder, on my lap, and I had a notebook and a pen out. I was actually taking a physical note rather than taking a note on my phone, because my phone is an Android piece of crap that 9 times out of 10 argues with me when I want it to do something. So I was taking a note. I was writing in a notebook, and the woman next to me, this is like the 10th time this has happened to me. The woman next to me was very rudely conducting a very loud conversation on her phone with some official person, some bank or whatever. This keeps happening to me. I imagine it happens all the time. And I was sitting next to her and I was thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to ignore you. I'm not going to give you the death stare because you might be armed and you won't notice anyway. There's no way to suddenly instill good manners in you. So I'm just going to ignore you. I'm not going to stare at you or anything like that. But to myself, I was saying, but surely you are not going to do what 10 people have done before you in my lifetime. And then she proceeded to do that very thing. On a crowded subway car, she proceeded to reel off all of her information. She was trying to do some sort of transaction with her credit card online on the subway, surrounded by people, including sitting right next to someone who had a pen and a piece of paper and was writing in it at that moment. That's a little situational awareness she had. She reeled off her first name, her middle name, her last name, her social security number, the entirety of her credit card number, its expiration date, its CVC code, everything. Everything just blared at the top of her lungs. I'm surprised she wasn't eating while she did it. So I just wanted to mention that as a subway adventure, and then totally unconnected. These two, I don't know why they're occurring to me at the same moment. These two things are totally unconnected. But also last week, around about the same time, I suddenly realized that I had a little extra money. So I bought this Superman, the Triangle Era, Volume 2. Look at the size of this thing. It's 1,500 pages long. It's all kinds of Superman adventures from the 1990s. The triangle here referring to the little triangle that was at the top of every Superman issue, because the story Superman had a number of different ongoing books: The Adventures of Superman, Action Comics, Superman, the Man of Steel, and these triangles would allow you to know which chapter of each story you were reading. because the stories would go, there'd be 3 or 4 parts, they'd go all between the Superman titles. I was reading Superman at this time and largely enjoying it. Uh, and DC Comics came out with a gigantic omnibus volume of volume 1 of the Triangle Era, and I got that and I loved it. Loved rereading it. And here they came out with volume 2. I think I'm not the only one who loved volume 1, because they came out with volume 2 in record time. And this thing not only includes a DC event called Panic in the Sky. That's where this cover comes from. Why Dan Jurgens, I don't know why he's popular anyway. I don't like him as a writer or an artist, but why he did a cover like this, I will never understand. I understand most of it, except for this guy. I have read these issues multiple times. Even I have a hard time remembering his name. When Wonder Woman is in these issues, why is she not on this cover? I have no idea. No idea at all. And why is this guy here instead of Robin? When all these characters are prominent in this. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This volume follows Superman through a whole bunch of different adventures, culminating in the most famous Superman adventure of them all, the death of Superman. That is the final part of this gigantic volume, which I just happened to find the extra money for. It's marvelous. Really, it's really kind of a miracle. So, and then the last thing I want to mention is BookTube. And that is, there's a channel called Thomas Howell. I don't know if I can leave a link on this video, but the channel is his name. And he did a video just today on why people should read print and paper books as opposed to e-reading. Now he's a smart, thoughtful guy. He has all the appurtenances that mostly I don't like. He talks like a small town preacher. He fetishizes the coffee, and his B-roll has Cormac McCarthy. He sounds a lot like, for you oldie McOldersons, he sounds a lot like DJ Chris from Northern Exposure, for Chris in the Morning. So if you were watching Northern Exposure and you loved him, as so many viewers of that show did, then his channel is going to make you smile. And if you were watching that show and you had the same reaction to Chris in the Morning that Maurice Manyfield did, well, he's going to have a different reaction. He's going to produce a different reaction in you. But he was making points about print and paper books, and I thought they were really good, really thoughtful. I don't agree with him, but I wonder how many of you do. He was saying that when you're using an e-reader, even a dedicated e-reader, which does nothing else, doesn't check your email or anything like that, there's still the urge to just get stuck in the screen. Whereas he mentioned that when you're reading a print and paper book, it's far easier to stop and savor and also break from the text and just look up and think about what you just read. I don't think I've ever heard anyone make that point before in the age-old debate between printed paper books and ebooks, and I wanted to know what you thought of it. I think it's fascinating. The whole subject, I think, is fascinating. But it was a really thoughtful video. So there you go. That's my throat clearing. And now we will go to the chat and see what's on your mind, because we've got to keep this thing going. So first, the first comment out of the gate is Gandhi Angles. Greetings. I believe you endorse Scott Iman's recent biography of Joan Crawford. I am thinking of picking it up. It is very, very good. I do endorse it very much so. It's wonderful. That reading guy says, whoa. Sean Patrick says, hi, Steve. Did you enjoy the book, How Green Was My Valley? We're just barely into the Stevestream, and people are already definitely trying to avoid asking you know what. I did enjoy it. Not that much. Sean Patrick is back. Steve, are borzois the dim bulbs of the canine world? I don't want to speak ill of any of my babies. I don't want to speak ill of any of my babies. And besides, calling anybody the dim bulbs of the canine world when Bernese mountain dogs are right out there just staring you in the face with huge strings of drool. There's not a lot of complexity in a borzoi mind. Not a lot. There's not a lot going on there. I wouldn't call them dim bulbs, though. No, I wouldn't do that. David Bergen says, "Hello, Steve. I went back and watched some of your earliest videos. Oh my, why would you do that? You seem more youthful and energetic now. Is booktubing the fountain of youth? No, no. The reason I don't seem more youthful. Well, I mean, I probably do seem more animated now and louder. But the main difference is that back then I was caretaking two sick and dying dogs. My dogs, Malin and Lucy, were sick and old, and they slept, and their sleep wasn't always comfortable, and they were always right next to me, and I was there. I had moved from being their friend, their wrestling buddy, their walking companion, to being their caretaker, and then finally their nurse. And that friends have pointed out to me that not only changed the way I talked around them, but that it changed the way I behaved. I was much more subdued, far more calming, and more calm. I think that's the change that you're noticing. Uh, I am still 28. Tolstoy 111, the picture of Dory and Steve. Alex Kuchma. Hey, finally get to tune into one of these. Yes, but we're not staying long. Uh, anyone got a good recommendation on the histories involving Tammany Hall? I recently read The Power Broker and was looking to dive further into the subject. Well, if you want recommendations, feel free to ask me instead of blaring them out to a crowd of people. Alexandra, let's just stick with Alexandra. Good Lord, a Stevestream. Is it Christmas already? I thought I would keep my hand in. It's been forever since I did a Stevestream. Forever. Clarence says, Lloyd George biography recommendation, kind sir. Oh, there is one that I like. It's one of those Lloyd George and things. Oh God, I'll never remember it off the top of my head. I'll never remember. It's from a long time ago, but I thought it was quite good. Lloyd George and I'll never remember. Sorry, I do have one. I can find it. I'm sure in my reading notebook. That reading guy's back. Rule number 1, no have you read questions. We don't want to scare poor Steve away. Just remember, Steve has read everything. Steve will tell you if he hasn't read everything. Steve doesn't pretend to read everything. Steve isn't, after all, the resident librarian of the internet. But the whole furor over have you read came from people asking me, have I read the Iliad? Anyway, Sean Patrick. Hi, Steve. You mentioned knowing Julia Child. Did you know Jacques Pepin? No. He's still alive, and I watch him on YouTube. Oh, God, he's still alive? He seems like a genuine nice guy and a great chef. Well, I didn't know him at all, no. Alex is back. I thought the portrayal of Julia Child in that Julie and Julia movie was so awful and dislikable. Yeah, I agree. Was she really that? Did you? Well, I only knew her through snail mail correspondence, mostly. We met in person, I think, twice. And it's easy to be anybody you want in snail mail correspondence. You were addressing that to Sean Patrick, not to me. Okay. Gretchen, so far my favorite novel of the year has been We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. I was wondering what your thoughts were on the novel. I think it's excellent. Really good. Probably the best thing that she's done so far. Although there were really effective moments in, what was the one about the brother who gains an enormous amount of weight? Oh, I'm having, all right. Well, clearly I don't have streamer memory tonight. I need to get better at that. But no, we need to talk about Kevin was excellent. And then Gandhi is asking her a question. Sean Patrick, my wife, who's jealous of our parasocial relationship. Sorry, very sorry. Not only for you, but for all of you out there. I know what I've been dealing with this for almost a decade of me coming between relationships where the boyfriend or the girlfriend, the wife or the husband will walk through the room, see that you are quite rightly enraptured by me, and scoff. Total graveyard silence all day until I'm on a stream. She heard you talking about a book that wouldn't hold up to a reading. She yelled at me from the other room. What exactly does that guy do to his books? I'm rough on my things. I handle them, except for ebooks, of course, which are indestructible. Daniel Blake says, hi, everyone. Oh, you're greeting everyone, not me. Okay. I love Steve's reading along with the commentary of Dracula. I wonder what does Steve think about Moscow to the end of the line? Well, it'd be nice if you asked him. Huh? Talon Tanky says, hi, Steve. Do you like Christina Stead? Absolutely, yes. Besides The Man Who Loved Children, do you like any of her other works? Also, who are some of your favorite Australian authors? Oh, please, Australian authors. Australia has writers. But what is the other? The Man Who Loved Children, of course, is great. But there's one other of hers that I particularly liked. But once again, streamer brain. I can't remember. And I don't think I have anything I can look it up on. I don't have any Christina Stead at the moment, not in print form and not in ebook. There's one other that I kind of sort of like. I think The Man Who Loved Children towers over everything else that I've read. I think I've read 4 books by that author. Anyway, the chat jumped. Wow, that hasn't happened in a while. All right, let's go back to where we were. Caden is here. Hi, Steve. I recently got a copy of the John Ellsworth translation of Petersburg. What do you think of his translation compared to Penguins? It's from Pushkin Press. I don't know that I've read it. I read the Penguin one a couple of times. I don't think I've read another one. David Bergen says, Steve, I just finished a full month where I exclusively read ebooks. I'm not sure I can go back now. I'm not paying you to say that, but it is mighty, mighty convenient. It underscores, it shows you all the annoyances you have put up with print and paper books. And I just got a stack of these things today. So I am obviously not, I obviously don't hate them. Bring up that Thomas Howell video again. I obviously don't hate them. But when you read ebooks, suddenly all those impediments are gone. Just gone. But anyway, you had a question. Do you believe ebooks can thrive while DRM is a mainstream standard? Well, it's not just DRM. Publishing industry has... Imagine if they had been continually improving ebooks as a thing for the last 15 years, instead of riding a boom that lasted 2 years and then just basically abandoning them. Imagine if they'd been doing that. It's... I don't even know. I literally don't know, because I don't know the technology involved, but they would be incredible. It's a shame. But so they don't thrive. But I know almost no case where someone does what you did, spend a lot of time, it was a bit of a learning curve. They are a bit different from a print and paper book. I know of almost no case where someone does that and doesn't immediately feel like the scales have fallen from their eyes and suddenly, oh yeah, I get this. I understand now what Steve is talking about. This is really, really convenient. And the thing that would have caused me to abandon the technology completely on day one, the key question is, does the spell still work? Does the magic still work? The whole reason that we read it all. Does that magic still work? Can I fall into a book when I'm reading it on an e-reader? And the answer to that question is indisputably yes. If that weren't true, I wouldn't want anything to do with it, but it is true. But anyway, Monet Doyle says hello. TMB says 10 minutes. I don't know what that means. Leo Picard says hello, Steve. Do you have a favorite book and movie set in New York? I think my favorite movie set in New York is Moonstruck. And along the same semi-fantastic line, Cosmos Moon, probably my favorite book set in New York is Winter's Tale by Mark Halperin. Sean Patrick says, Steve, I want to thank you for introducing me to the word subalpine when you called me that in a heated email exchange. I throw that word around a lot. Andrew says, is Gore Vidal's sequel to Palimpsest worth a look? Not really. Feel free. If you like Gore Vidal's writing style, it hadn't left him by then, but it isn't really necessary, no. TMTB says, oh my gosh, was she elderly? I don't know who the she is here. Got to put context in your questions. I'm not remembering. June Girl says, hello, Steve. I'm a cousin. Thomas Donahue was my grandfather. Really? Really? That seems out of the blue, June Girl. How do you know it's my Tom Donahue? How do you know that? That's amazing, if true. Big, if true. The Big Shep. Howdy, Steve. I was glad to see you finally squeeze the Irish starter kit out of you. Yes, an Irish starter kit. And then a memoir starter kit. And what will tomorrow's starter kit be? That reading guy's back. A Stevestream in December. It's a Christmas miracle. I don't know why people like these things so much, but I see that 16 people are here. Uh, Roomham says, "Have you gotten a chance to go through the Oxford Chaucer, the only $40 new book that could actually tempt me?" I did. It's expensive. It's really good. It's really, really good. Although there's a part of me that says, well, it depends on how well you know Chaucer, but there's a part of me that says just grab a $1 battered old Penguin classic of the Coghill modernization and just fall in love with all the details of it. Then you can get the elaborate versions that you can't carry anywhere. The Big Ship says, "How did you feel about C.S. Friedman's Cold Fire trilogy? I've slowly thrifted them over the years because they're a favorite of my dad's. I'm curious about your opinion, even if I'm reading them anyway." I like them. I like them. Gandhi says, "Thoughts on Hitchens' Why Orville Matters?" This book just took flight. uh, uh, I believe you mean Orwell. Yes, it's trifle. It's a trifle of a book. It has some good Hitchin style turns of phrase, but it's a trifle. Uh, TMTB says, "Have you read Vera by Elizabeth von Arman?" So we got that far. We got 21 minutes in before we got a "Have you read" question. And boy, you'd think after all this time not doing Stevestreams that I would have built up a kind of rubbery cushion against it, but no, it hurts just as bad. Okay. Let's move on. I want to move back. I can't believe June Girl talking about being her cousin on the Donahue side. Sean Patrick says, "Steve, I think the combination conveys something. The question mark exclamation point conveys something. Could it ever become official punctuation? Jettison the semicolon." Well, couldn't jettison the semicolon. They don't do the same thing. But I I have seen it. The combination question mark exclamation point. I've seen it used, and I guess there's an argument that it expresses not just the surprise of an exclamation point, but disbelieving surprise. I guess. I've always thought that the exclamation point largely did that, but it doesn't. It doesn't only do that. I've been you find it in 19th century works. It just means emphasis. It doesn't mean that I'm astonished or confused that this is possible. So it might be legitimate, but the semicolon is not going anywhere. Alexandra says, regarding printed paper books, I like to read comics and art books with lots of pictures in it as printed paper. Anything else, I prefer e-readers without question. See, I lump in comics, definitely. There is nothing like reading comics on an iPad. Just nothing like it. It's amazing. Uh, that reading guy says, e-readers actually do get me trapped into the screen because it's reading. I love it. Physical reading can be distracting because there's an object you got to fumble with. An e-reader is comfortable. I agree. I agree completely. I was just wondering because Thomas Howell has that soothing voice. I just wondered how many of you agreed with him, like I do. You know, Izzy says, "I was shocked. I tell you, shocked to see the Haney poems ranked 4th on your best reprints list." Well, as opposed to number one. For Pete's sake, I've been worshiping this guy for 50 years, and his poetry isn't exactly low profile. I thought he could live. I thought he could survive with not being number one. God help us. Besides, almost nothing, almost no book this year has commanded me like those notebooks of Camus. Almost none. So, oh wait, that's not the thing you're talking about. You're talking about reprints. It's still, number 4 is still good. Pete's sake. Oh, Rena is reading says, "I haven't noticed that my Kindle screen stops me from pausing and thinking critically. I actually tend to put my Kindle down more because I keep it in my pocket for short stretches of empty time." Yeah, mine is very seldom away from me when I'm moving around, which I'm told never happens. So I guess it's a moot point. Gandhi says, "Did your dogs pass in their sleep? Have you ever had to put a dog down?" My dogs didn't pass; they died. But no, I had both of them euthanized. I had both of them. Well, I had Lucy euthanized uh, when it was clear that just there was no way. She wasn't enjoying herself at all. She was largely uncomfortable all the time. And I was taking Malin to be euthanized as well a few months later when she died on the way. So neither one of them died in their sleep. I haven't had that happen in quite some time. I had a beagle who was dear to me. He lived for a very, very, very long time, and he died in his sleep, bathing, a donut in the sun. Uh, while I was away, I came in. I came in the front door talking to him, and it took me a minute to realize that he was gone. Um, but yeah, I have had dogs euthanized. Yes. Anyway, uh, Hamza says, Steve, what are your thoughts on the time you were asked thoughts on thoughts? Hoping that doesn't happen in this stream. Let's see here. Alex says, Steve, I did send you an email about Tammany Hall recommendations. I would love to get a recommendation here if you have any. There is one. There was a Tammany Hall book that hasn't been a new study, popular study, in quite some time. But there was one that, again, because I have streamer brain, I'm not going to remember. But there was a Tammany Hall book from like 50 years ago that was really, really good. I had the classic Tammany Hall cartoon on the cover of a bloated politician. I'm no good to you, though, because I don't have the details. Uh, Cold Efornia. Seeing some names that I don't recognize here. Hey, Steve, I'm enjoying reading Long Knife by Alexander Tom. I'm wondering if his other historical novels are worth reading. Oh my God, they are. Yes. Yes, they are. They are all worth reading. He is terrific. Just terrific. Are you reading them? Did you find a copy of him at a used bookstore? I'd love to do that. I have only Long Knife and only as a mass market paperback, which, wouldn't be readable. Samwise is here. Greetings, Steve. Have a great night. I shall save my many questions for later this week. It's entirely possible that Samwise go and subscribe to his channel. It's entirely possible that he and I will be having a little video chat. Not Jimbo says, hey, Steve-O, just wondering if you've managed to get hold of a jacket that fits. You had to bring it up. You had to bring it up. No, I have not. No, I have not. I have taken to the barbaric alternative. I have a windbreaker. It's not a jacket at all. It's nothing. It's not even a Gore-Tex shell. It's the thinnest thing I have. And it is also broken. The zipper doesn't work, as zippers never do. So it's just an open coat. And I've taken to wearing that because it can't close, but at least it can't close poorly. And the only way I've been able to get away with that is that it's been 65 degrees every day in Boston for the last 200 days. But I am told by all and sundry in the weather community that it is going to be genuinely cold after whatever storm comes through tomorrow. So then what do I do? And I'm still stuck on that comment that someone made that maybe the problem isn't the coats. Maybe the problem is the wine and calzones and the mega stuffed Oreos. Shelly is here saying hi. That reading guy says, how many books have you bought new this year? Could you count on two hands? I would need two hands. I think it's like three. If you count this thing. Which I got at what you might say was a steal. So Sean Patrick says, I assume Hyde Cottage comes from Hyde Park. Follow-up, is Hyde Park part of Jamaica Plain or vice versa? Well, it's Hyde Park Ave, the road, the gigantic evacuation road out of Boston that goes straight for like a million miles. That's Hyde Park Ave. Tolstoy 111 says, by the way, I'm reading Voss by Patrick Wright. Did you like it? Him? He's not talked about much these days. Yeah, nobody talks about Patrick White on BookTube. Even the Australian writers don't. The Australian booktubers don't seem to talk about him. I thought he was like the country's big claim to fame. No? Oh my God, the chat jumped. I want to go back to where you were. Yeah. Penguin came out with orange spine trade paperbacks of Voss and Riders in the Chariot and all, I think 3 or 4 other things by Patrick White, 2 other things by him. I read them all. I got all those trade paperbacks and read them. I've never seen the fuss about this guy. I've never known why he was considered, a great writer. Maybe I need to revisit them. I don't have any Patrick Voss at all. So, K. Napolo says, I loved your review of the biography of a mountain. Good thing the Trump regime prefers TV and Truth Social. You would definitely make an enemies list. I felt a little guilty about that review. Because I went on a little. I think I went on a little too long about Trump's sacrilegious, blasphemous speech at Mount Rushmore when it is in the book. So I felt I had a toehold of legitimacy to bring it up, but I felt that I went on a little too long about it. It's just that the writer downplayed it and even quoted the speech wrong. I don't understand why future generations, posterity outside of the United States, is not going to understand why no one ever reports the actual things this guy says and does. They report some version of them. I don't understand it, and posterity is not going to understand it. Plus, people in other countries 100 years from now are going to say, all right, well, this particular event, what did he actually say? The words he actually said. And there'll be 50 different versions. It's like we don't live in the era of videotape. Anyway, I'm glad you liked it. I don't know what the author thinks. I still need to do a review for today. But let's see here. Hugo says, hi, Steve. I prefer reading physical books as it does get me away from the screens, which nearly all my university work is done on. Also, can you recommend any good 20th century Russian history book? Well, I can indeed. The House of Government by Yuri Slezkin. Might want to get the trade paperback. The trade paperback in which the now late lamented Tom Stoppard is quoted on the back, and so am I. The only cover we're ever going to share together. That reading guy says, did you ever resolve your jacket drama? You might have told us if we'd regularly had Irish stew videos. You have had a lot of Irish stew videos. But no, the jacket drama has not been resolved. In fact, it's coming up on a crisis point. If the forecasters are correct, we are going to have real cold for the first time in Boston soon, by the end of this week. When I won't be able to wear this dinner napkin that I'm wearing now, so we shall see. Rita's reading says, I just finished The Caretaker Thing. Had to make the decision to let my cat of 16 a few weeks ago. I couldn't keep chasing her to force meds and didn't want her to suffer more from her conditions. Yeah, you reach a point. You reach a point. It's the hardest moment. Harder than anything. You reach a point when you just realize what your duty is telling you to do. It's the hardest thing in the world. It's the hardest thing. With my girls, Lucy died and Malin had no interest in being alive. She coasted for a couple of months just because of me, but she had no interest after that in being around. After Lucy was gone, no interest at all. And everything here was orchestrated around their infirmities, how to get them down the one step out the back door. Paper towels and disinfectant and deodorizing spray in every room, everywhere within reach. Everything, just every single adaptation. And when Malin died and I got back here, I suddenly realized that I had all that caretaker tension, always to be ready, always to be on call, and no object for it anymore. It was just floating free. There was no way to transfer it. I had a little puppy who needed nothing. There was no way to transfer it. It was just all that was just done. That all that part of me, all those adaptations of me were done. So I just, with tiny little Frida just trailing behind me, I just walked from room to room, picking up the paper towel rolls, picking up the towels and the drop cloths and whatnot. You reach a point where you just say, I can't do this to them anymore. But anyway, Hamza says, my Kindle lets me read in the position I find most comfortable, laying down in bed on my side. E-readers for the win. Yes. Yeah. Whereas this thing, I have to read this here on the fainting couch, sitting up at attention with a pillow on my lap and this thing spread on the pillow. I can't read it in bed. Can't even bring it into the other room. The Big Ship says, I just got a lovely mass market of I'm a Barbarian by Edgar Rice Burroughs. I'm guessing you like it, but I'm new to Burroughs. Do you think that's reasonable if unconventional starting point? Well, first of all, let's get it correct, right? It's I am a barbarian, not I am a barbarian. And I'm okay. But I do like it. Yeah. Did you? I assume you got the mass market paperback with the Frazetta cover, the only edition of that book to have. I do like it. It's a weird place to start. You must know that, or you wouldn't ask the question. It's a weird place to start. 99.9% of all people ever in the history of time start with Tarzan of the Apes. The other 1% start with John Carter or Princess of Mars. Starting Edgar Rice Burroughs with I Am a Barbarian is a little strange, but it shows his narrative abilities as strong as anything. So Andro says, good evening. J. Scott Phillips is here. I was just about to head over to our brand new Barnes & Noble store that just opened when I saw your Stevestream announcement. Thank you. You just saved me from doing some Christmas shopping. You could go over there and tell them about me. What's the newsstand section like? That's the thing I envy. A. Soren is here. Alexander Serrano is here. It's been so long since I've heard from you. It's been rough over here as a first timer trying to mollify a full-size male dog from a neighbor dog who's in heat. How did you deal with it when you had a room full of boys? Well, I was able to talk to them. First of all, there was no language barrier. And also, well, you knew what I was like when you married me. Also, I'm their king. So I not only is there no language barrier, but I don't make requests. So we worked it out. We worked it out just fine. That reading guy is here. E-readers allow you, but you could always email me. You never write, you never call. You could always email me. But anyway, that reading guy. E-readers allow you to have two completely separate personal libraries. It saves me so much physical space. It does save a lot of physical space. Yeah, and it's amazing too because the libraries end up subtly different. The library of books that I have on this thing is subtly different from the one I have on my iPad mini, which is subtly different from the one I have on my Kindle. Captain says, hi, Steve. Since you've been doing this, the Irish Stews, I get all of your political analysis on a regular basis, which is a real treat. So I'll just say thanks and hope you are well. Well, I appreciate that. I never quite know why the Irish Stew videos are popular, but I appreciate that. Sean Patrick says, Steve, did you ever run into the fellow Bostonians, the Magliozzi brothers of car talk? No, wouldn't have known how to talk to them if I did. W.S. Wilst, hi, Steve. This is my first Stevestream. I've been meaning to ask you, have you finished your reading of Acts? Well, I finished it a long time ago. Yeah. Are you asking, have I finished my reading out loud on BookTube? No, I have not. I stopped it. Gandhi says, oops, I did indeed mean Orwell. Yes. Christopher Hitchens on Orwell would have been a lot more entertaining, but he couldn't have done it because it would have required research, and he wasn't able to do that. Karen says, my phone says 127 watching you. Not a chance. There can't be that many hopeless people. That reading guy said, I said, no, have you read questions? Why don't people listen to me? I know. We got to have you read question. Elizabeth von Arman, too. That's Cole DeFornia says, I'm reading Before the Storm by Rick Perlstein. What do you think of it? I'm enjoying it immensely, but parts of it remind me of a horror novel. Yeah, some of it will. I'm not a big fan, but if it's your first brush with reading that kind of history, that period, yeah, I imagine that it would strike you as a horror novel. Gandhi says, speaking of Orwell, can you recommend a biography? Why? What Taylor's book on Orwell is really good, but why? He wrote autobiographical books his whole life. He has 4 thick volumes of collected reviews and essays. Why not just read all of them? Why read a biography of this guy? Why? Are you that interested in knowing when he skipped out on rent as a teenager in Leeds or whatever? Is it Taylor that I'm thinking of, or Enright? I think it's Taylor. I reviewed it. There was a reissue and a sort of updating of the standard biography of Orwell that is good. But have you really read all of Orwell so many times, know it so well that you're now ready to move on to a biography? It just anyway. Nilex, Steve, you mentioned 6 years ago that nobody has done more damage to the presidency than Nixon. Do you still hold that view? No, of course not. Of course I don't. You know that I don't. No, of course not. No one comes anywhere close to Donald Trump. Not in Nixon's wildest, most drunk fantasies did he ever imagine organizing, and I mean on the phone, working for months, organizing and orchestrating an armed rebellion to overthrow the government of the United States and install himself as a dictator. That never crossed his mind. Never crossed his mind. Much less murder, warmongering, massive illegal profiteering, Bitcoin. Of course, Nixon didn't know anything about. No, not even close. No, there was an institution of the presidency after Nixon, and there isn't anymore. This thing that I try to get through to people, it doesn't get through, and that's okay. Which is that this is not an aberration in a steady state thing. There is no going back. Once a country becomes fascist, there's no going back. You can get somebody who comes in and says, well, I'm not the same kind of fascist that they are. But you don't go back. The thing doesn't reach anyway. No, I don't hold that view, and you know that. Monet Dole says, I'm reading Smitten with the Orthopedic Surgeon. Is that really a book? SPQR says, SPQR Romantic says, regarding ebooks, I've heard that they often make it very difficult and impossible to read poetry. Do you find that to be the case? Yes. That would be a legitimate criticism, definitely, is that they make it difficult or almost impossible to read poetry. I've tried that with a number of poets, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. J. Scott Phillips says, I messaged you about the Anaheim Public Library book sale a couple of weeks ago, but you haven't responded. They want to close up for the year. Can I go home yet? I thought sure I responded. I thought you sent me a ton of pictures, and I said, send me everything. I guess go home, I suppose. That reading guy says, after your year reading Camus, it's safe to say you now like him as a writer, maybe even as a thinker. No, I don't. I like him as a writer, a little, but I don't think I didn't do a huge amount of Camus reading, nor will I. I will not voluntarily read philosophy. I read the notebooks, and they weren't the only philosopher notebooks that I read this year. I fell into them and Wittgenstein, God help me. And I reread The Stranger. I got a slipcase box illustrated version of The Stranger, and I reread that, and then that immediately made me want to read, the original. But I'm not going to make a life study of Camus. No, it was the notebook that fascinated me. Must read more is here. I was going to make a video tonight on failsafe, but now I'm hanging out here. Which failsafe? The movie or the live action telemovie that was done in real time? The actors had to know their lines. There were no cuts. There was nothing like that. Which failsafe? Or did you mean the boring old book? Oh, God help us, you probably did. Jenny Park says, woo, a Stevestream. That reading guy says, you don't remember book titles, but you remember to make the streamer joke every time. I don't remember book titles or author names, but when it comes to cheesy humor, I'm still telling jokes from the 1830s. So yeah, I do. Nilex says, Steve, between the Bible and the Quran, which do you enjoy reading more? The Bible, obviously. And which is more emotionally stirring and thought-provoking for you? The Bible. The Bible. The Quran is a pretty barren book for reading enjoyment. The stream, the chat jumped again. There we go. Sean Patrick says, Steve, where do you place Dr. Zhivago on the movie is better than the book spectrum? The movie is clearly better than the book. The movie is magic. The book is good, but it has no magic in it. Gandhi says, I am facing that decision now about my dog. Very painful, difficult decision. It is. It is the worst thing. It is the worst thing. And it's good that it's the worst thing, because I have worked at the intake of animal rescue shelters, and I know what it's like for people when it isn't painful for them. So the fact that it's painful for you is good. It validates that they were right to be yours all along, that you deserve them. But the worst part of it is that when you reach that point, the painful decision, the most painful decision, is coming from you. It's not being imposed on you at all. You're making it. there comes a day, none of the people who haven't been through this are not going to get it at all, and I won't dwell on it. But there comes a day, an afternoon, a morning, one fall too many, a whimper, a look. There comes a moment when you suddenly realize you, my best friend, are not going to be alive tonight. I have decided that you are not going to be alive tonight. You're not going to have another weekend with me. And that's just, anyway. Capybara Sloth says, hello, Steve. Thoughts on Melville's poetry? Have you ever read Clara? Oh, you were doing so well. You asked me my thoughts on Melville's poetry. And then you asked me if I have ever read a major work by Herman Melville. I know that I say this all the time, but I simply do not understand. Have you read questions like that? Didn't I even use Melville as an example earlier in this live stream? You are serious. You're looking at me. You're listening to me. You don't even know anything about my publication history. You're looking at me and listening to me, and you are seriously asking me if I've ever read Clara by Herman Melville. Okay. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to move on. Nilek says, Steve, is Joseph Syracuse's book on Kennedy worth a read? I think I know what you're talking about, in which case, no. But I'm not sure about that name. That reading guy says, I don't understand your beef with zippers. I've never had a jacket zipper break on me, but then again, I don't eat mega stuff Oreos. Yeah, you're a thin, reedy thing. Zippers are treacherous. They're bad. I've never understood them anyway. Even when they don't break, I've never understood them anyway, especially on pants. Oh my God. On pants for men? I've never understood that. Yeah, let's design a garment, a piece of clothing for a man, a male human standing upright and walking around all day. And it's the very front of it, the part that is 1/15 of 1 inch away from the man's extremely sensitive and irreplaceable external genitals. And what's that going to be? I was thinking of metal interlacing teeth. I've never understood that. I was so happy when, long before you were born, Levi jeans had a button fly thing where you had buttons instead of zippers down there. I was so happy about that. But it didn't last. I don't think they make button fly jeans anymore. Winston Vidal says, why did you feel the need to distinguish between passing and dying? Rather harsh. I don't like euphemisms on the subject. Passing, has passed, has gone, has moved on. It's not meant to be harsh. It's just I've never understood the point of euphemisms like that. They bug me. James Rucala is here. Hi, Steve. As a native of New York's largest borough, could I ask you to leave Queens out of your list of Trump's bad qualities, please? I can't do it. There's a reason why I do it. And as a native of Queens, you probably know the reason. Because I'm using it as a descriptor. And the only reason I can use it as a descriptor is if he shares it with lots of other people from Queens. If you're being honest, I don't like it either, but if you're being honest, you'll admit that as a descriptor, it does have weight. Anyway, J. Scott Phillips says, did I hear you mention a coming storm? Does that open the door for a blob watch? Oh, blob watch. Oh my God. For those of you who haven't been to a Stevestream, that is when Scotty asked for me to show him diagrams of the weather. That's how interesting these Stevestreams get. I haven't done a blob watch in so long. Where will I even find it? Good Lord. The thing about this iPad is I have this tray, this productivity tray, but it doesn't show everything. Not everything is there. Sometimes I have to just sort of, see, I have to make an extra swipe to show things that aren't in that tray and don't appear to be anywhere else. But yeah, let's give Scotty a all right. Well, there it is. That's the very thing that all the weather forecasters are talking about. That thing right there is headed to the East Coast. So rain at the bottom, snow up at the top, and that line, if you see the direction that it's moving in, that line is going to bisect Boston almost down to street signs and hydrants. So who knows if we'll get rain or snow? Who knows? That the line between these two right here that is just going to keep moving like that. You can see the direction it's moving in. So who knows if we're going to get rain or snow? But what about you? You know? Oh no, the only thing in your relative neck of the woods is a symbol for an earthquake. That squiggly line right there is an earthquake. So that's not good. Near Sacramento. I haven't read anything about that, but no, the main event, the main storyline, weather-wise, for the country is this winter storm that is slowly marching its way towards New England. That's going to be here by mid-morning, and the weather people are saying that the trough in between. You see that big one up in Canada. That's the weather people are saying that the trough in between these two is bitterly cold. I don't believe it. We'll see if it happens, but I don't believe it. Stephanie says, oh no, Stephen Newton says, howdy. Looks like you were ahead of everyone. More news programs are talking about Hegseth now. Yes. Well, yeah, but they don't care. The mainstream media doesn't care if he's killed people. They just like the drama. They like the Trump bump. And they've heard rumors coming out of Washington being leaked by the leakiest administration in the world, that Trump is considering fire or letting him just hang him out to dry, rather than defending him to the nines, rather than saying he did it on my authority, and Trump's authority, thanks to the Trump court, is unassailable. He can kill anybody he wants. He can kill you tomorrow. But yeah, I try to keep ahead of the news, and this was not hard to do. This was not hard to do. It wasn't hard to keep ahead of this story because it was obvious murder from the start. Let's see here. Reading Pathway says, hi, Steve. I think you've said schools and their curriculum determine what becomes classics. Do you think that applies to contemporary fiction coming out of the 21st century? It usually does. Yeah. No matter what, no matter how chaotic the 21st century is, it usually does. Not in the United States, but in every other country in the world. The future curriculums, the things that are classics, will be the things like what is a book that has broken through that? A relatively modern book, so not the Three Musketeers or Scarlet Letter or anything like that. A relatively modern book that has broken through and is now in curricula everywhere at every level. Art Spiegelman's Mouse is a good example. That is everywhere now. So that is now that's the kind of process that osmoses, that calcifies a thing into a classic. It certainly won't be the reading public. That's for sure. The Big Shep says, oh, Steve, I started watching some of your backlog and found your video on Heller's God Knows. Started reading it and rapidly becoming an all-time favorite. So thanks for that. And God Knows is amazing. Just amazing. Funny, bittersweet, incredibly sad. Just a wonderful, wonderful book. Edward Gibbon. Hi, Steve. Up late here in the UK for the hallowed Stevestream. Please, could you recommend a Roman historian similar to Ronald Sim, whom I deeply love? Similar to him. That's going to be tough. As you know, if you deeply love him, he's a pretty tough act to follow. But I just mentioned the other day, it's not a wholesale thing, but James Anthony Froude, Froude, he did a book that if you like Sim, you're going to love it. He did a book called Caesar, a Sketch. It's really a biography. He just, with fake modesty, called it a sketch. It's an incredible book on Caesar. Just incredible, incredibly readable. Much the same magisterial quotability as Sim. So you might want to try that. And it's free. I'm pretty sure it's free on Project Gutenberg. Monet says your audio went out. Okay, no one else is mentioning that. I'm hoping that it's back if it did. Cole DeFornia says, is 1876 by Gore Vidal worth reading? Yeah, it is. Nilek says, Steve, can I send you 4 collectible rare hardback books of the entire 1001 Arabian Nights? Would you accept that? It would be worthless. It's very nice of you to do, but it would be useless to send me rare collectible books of any kind. They would be in pieces in a year. I appreciate the thought, but it's not a good idea to send me precious books. I'm just too hard on books. Sean Patrick says, I'm not asking you to, but do you think you could, with a margin of error plus or minus 5,000, estimate how many books you've read in your life? How many books I've read in my life? Uh, it wouldn't be a lot. Maybe 100,000. Maybe 100,000. Uh, it wouldn't be a lot. It wouldn't be. I don't think it'd be more than that. I don't know that I could estimate that. I'm terrible at that. I almost reflexively said ask David Murphy, but he wouldn't know either. Uh, Tolstoy 111 says, since Australia writers came up, how about New Zealand's Carrie Hulme? Did you like the Bone People? I did like the Bone People. I guess that kind of counts, doesn't it? California says, what is the best biography of Chaucer? The best one is probably by Turner, A European Life. And if you get the trade paperback of that, you will have a very sexy blurb on it. My favorite is by John Gardner, even though it got savaged by everybody when it came out. I still think it's lovely. Shelley is here. Shelley Swearingen is here. Go all subscribe to her channel. She has the second cutest miniature schnauzer on BookTube. Australians often recommend Tim Winton to me as a native Aussie author. Thoughts? Yeah, I don't get it. I've read him too, and I don't get it. The Bone People I kind of get, but Tim Winton, I just don't get it. That reading guy's back. I hope you write about your dogs in your mythical 1,000-page autobiography. Your reflections of caretaking are wonderfully eloquent and touching. Wasn't that nice of you all? I could scarcely avoid writing about dogs in my 1,000-page autobiography called Odd Dog. I could scarcely do that. I could scarcely avoid writing about them. And I would just try my hardest. I would want Odd Dog to be an entertaining book. So I would try my hardest to pull the narrative tone away from those moments as soon as they were over. But the thing is, I've had a lot of dogs in my life, and I have said goodbye to every one of them. I am extremely well practiced in grief, and I wouldn't want that to overwhelm the book. I definitely wouldn't want it to overwhelm the book, but it would be in there. Surely it would be in there. Daniel's YouTube channel says, hello, Steve. What do you think of Yves Lenoir? I'm reading Scoop and his essays at the moment. I'll have to move on to travel writing next. I managed to get most of his books in the Everyman editions. Well, that sounds nice. I love him. I think he's great. And I have done at least one enthusiastic read-along of Brideshead Revisited on this channel, maybe more than one. There's a book I wish I could read out loud. Nilix says, Steve, one of my dog babies died 2 days ago. His name was Geronimo. What do you do to cope with the death of your little ones? What do I do personally, or what do I advise for you? The key to understand is that you will survive it. We always think you don't. When it's all encompassing, when it's just acid poured all over your heart, you think this is too much for me, but it isn't. You do survive. I know this incredibly well. I know this incredibly well. Not just for Lucy, but for one particular beagle before her. I know what that feels like, where you look down the road to the point when they aren't there and say, well, I won't be either. But you are. And for me, my coping is almost always that somebody else needs me. Almost always that's the case, where either I already have dogs who have survived the dog who died and they need me, or there are all the dogs out there in the world who need me that I can now go and get, and I can now go and save. That tends to help. That tends to be the thing. Cole DeFornia says, what is the best piece of fiction or no fiction about the Alamo? Well, that's kind of interesting that you would mention that, because I just found, what's his name, Harrigan's novel called The Alamo at a little free library just the other day. I found a mass market paperback of it, a little Penguin mass market paperback, and I gave it a reread. It's as dull as a brick. So I would say not that. Maybe Walter Lord wrote a terrific book on the Alamo, the guy that did A Night to Remember about the Titanic. He did a great book on the Alamo. I don't know, it's probably been out of print for 70 years, but it was absolutely terrific. And also there's a history book called 3 Roads to the Alamo about Travis and Bowie and Davy Crockett all converging at the Alamo, that is also really good. And of course, I recommend the John Wayne movie. Okay. Sean Patrick says, Steve, I cringe when I read something like he looked at his Rolex watch and turned to his wife shouldering her new Gucci purse Is that bad writing, or am I being a snob about brand name inserts? No, it's bad writing. It's lazy writing. It's a lot. It wants the names to do some narrative work, and a writer shouldn't do that, unless that's the point. Unless the person works for Rolex, or the fact that it's a Rolex is important. But just a name drop, just a Bret Easton Ellis name drop, is lazy. Daniel's YouTube channel says, also, I have you to thank for helping me become a better reader. Your enthusiasm is infectious. Oh, isn't that nice? Thank you. Shelly's back. My screen says 141 people are watching you. That can't be true. That can't be true. D Nautic says, I just read a recommend from Olive at a book, Olive. Eleanor of Avignon is easily my favorite read of the year. Did you enjoy it? Eleanor of Avignon. That's not ringing any bells at all. WS says, I love the Gospels and Acts reading. Oh, well, by the way, my name is Wilst, pronounced with a long E like Weast. Yeah, I'm going to remember that. Definitely. I enjoyed it too. I just stopped that read along. I didn't have any particular reason to. I just did. Dorlin says, hi, Steve. I missed the colorful covers and where I'm spatially in my book when reading on an e-reader. Yeah, little things like that, definitely. My iPad has, of course, bursting color, but I don't see the book when the iPad is off. My e-reader shows the cover of the book when it is asleep, when it's sleeping, so I can see it, but not in color. Penny Wright says, who are your favorite authors to look for in Star Trek fiction? I've been pretty underwhelmed by a few, especially Peter David, but I'm not ready to give up. Well, famously, I love Diane Carey. What is that I hear? That's better. I love Diane Carey. I think she's fantastic. I know that some of my former colleagues on Book Trek weren't all that enamored of her, but I think she's terrific. When she hits a perfect note or a perfect scene, she's so good. And the key is that she gets the characters, but she also knows nautical stuff. She knows how things work on a vessel. I love her. Of course, the Star Trek authors that I fell in love with were Sandra Marshak and Myrna Culbreth for The Price of the Phoenix, but I can't really recommend that book. It's kind of an acquired taste. It's from an earlier era of Star Trek fiction. Roomham says, I need a steady supply of print books to take to work since there's a policy against electronics. Oh no, does the policy against electronics even apply to e-readers? That seems a little bit harsh. Oh, that's too bad. Oh no, the chat jumped again. All right, let's go back to Rumham. Where are you? There we go. That reading guy is next. Maybe people will be studying the American fascism 1,000 years from now as we read of the Roman Empire. They certainly will be. They indisputably will be. Yeah. The most powerful nation in the history of the world, and also one of the most egalitarian and small L liberal nations. So not something verging on, but a big, open, cosmopolitan, friendly country, and the most powerful country in the history of the world, fell to fascism. That will be written about for as long as there are books. That will be written about. California says, do you think you could do an essential Native American literature? I've been reading a lot on the history of Native American resistance against European colonization. I would worry about that. I've read a huge amount on the subject, but you know what the attitude, the atmosphere is like in the 21st century, in 2025. You know what it's like. I'd be courting cancellation for cultural appropriation or any other kind of ridiculous cultural whatevers. I wouldn't be running that risk with you people. So I guess I could do it. I guess I could do it because I can certainly recommend books. Oh my God, lots of them. I'll put it on the list. Why not? I mean, I've been canceled already twice. So Roomham says they won't make a building policy against reading for the 3 people to do it out of thousands. Oh, that's a shame. Edward Gibbons says, did you not enjoy Wittgenstein's Tractatus? No one did. I thought you might like it since its thesis is that mostly philosophy is nonsense and we can only talk meaningfully about the observable facts of the world. Yeah, but look how he does it. Look how he writes about that. Impenetrably, intentionally obscurely, badly, in other words. Anyway, Jovan Mitrovic says, I thank you for following me on Instagram. That was a nice boost to my ego. Okay. I should get much better at that. I should I should, for instance, follow everybody who follows me on Instagram. I never get around to it. Sean Patrick says, Steve, I know plenty of people who frown at coloring books for kids because they say it stifles creativity. What is your opinion of adult coloring books? I've never understood that opinion about kids coloring books, but adult coloring books, I I lump them under the many, many, many ways that adults in the 21st century have come up with to waste time that could be used either to read books or to write them. DZIGIN says, Steve, do you watch IT Welcome to Derry? And if so, do you like it? No idea what that is. Clarence Beeks says Lloyd George and the Generals. I think that was it. I think that was the book. I need to know what was the publication date? Was that around the 1960s? DZIGN says, I still have some jeans with buttons and I love them. J. Scott Phillips is back. I just discovered that Max Brand wrote the original Dr. Kildare books going back to the 30s. Do you think they're any good? They're wonderful. The Dr. Kildare books are wonderful. I used to have all kinds of mass market paperbacks and I don't anymore, but they are terrific. Rumham says, is it acceptable question to ask, have you read Claral 10 times? Yeah, but that's not what the person asked. Was it you, Rumham? That isn't what the person asked. They asked if I had ever read a gigantic major work by Herman Melville, for Pete's sake. Colombian Thunder, 50 minutes late to Stevestream. That almost never happens. The horror. Penny Wright says, my boyfriend wants to know if you think the Chronicles of Narnia movies are better than the books. Of course they are. Of course they are. Look at all the treacle in the books. Look at all the time-wasting, silly treacle in the books. That's not in the movies. No. Yeah, they're much better. The movies are much better. DZGIN says, your favorite book from Guy Gavriel Kay. What is the name of it? You're going to be able to tell me. You think I'm going to say Tigana, but I'm not. He did one much later than that. Souls was in the title of the sequel. Oh, that's not helping any at all. Oh my God. Actually, can I look it up on here? It was terrific. Absolutely terrific. Here, let's see if we can do a Guy Gavriel Kay. Okay. Bibliography. Look at that. That was easy. Okay, so am I going to be able to find it? It was terrific. Under Heaven from 2010 is my favorite book by him. You think I'd remember the name? I don't have a copy of it, or I would reread it. I never see it. Daniel's YouTube channel says, thoughts on the Buckley versus Vidal debates. Personally, I thought Vidal was in poor taste, though I do love his writing. It's a shame they never got on. It would have made a brilliant firing line episode. Yeah, I agree with you on the characterization of it. They never really lit me up. Sean Patrick says, Steve, do you, and by you I mean your surly houseboy, put up a Christmas tree? No. Neither one of us keeps Christmas, so there'd be no point. And then you got to take care of it, and then you got to clean it up and get rid of it. No, we don't. Stephen Newton says, this is going to sound silly. Do you think you can truly judge a book when you only listen to the audiobook version? I listened to Dracula twice and loved it. Oh, people swear by audiobooks. I don't myself, but people do. So that can't all be wrong. It can't all be just a completely side thing from actually getting the book. Violet's Book Days. Yeah, definitely people here I don't recognize. I have 10 minutes left of my lunch break. If only I checked out my YouTube app sooner. I've been missing my first Stevestream for the last 20 minutes. Glad to be here now, though. Glad to have you here. O'Hanahan says, where's the best place for calzones? Depends on where you are. I have a local place here that I think is terrific. DZIGN says, do you like Justice League death metal? No. Andrew McDonald says, I've ordered Lee's Tom Stoppard biography. I'll keep in mind the reservations you expressed in your review. Gandhi says, was hoping Kai Bird's biography of Roy Cohn would be published this year. It looks like next year. Why would you hope for that, though? Steven says, this storm is here in Chicago, and it's no joke. The roads and sidewalks are horrible. Right. It's no joke, but you're south. there's two halves to this thing, and there's a line, and the line is staying steady, and the line is what's headed straight for Boston. So are we going to get the snow part, or are we going to get the rain part? I don't know. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. Joe Van says, just read a discussion on a subreddit about an adaptation of The Red and the Black. Almost everybody in the comments wanted Timothy Chalamet to play Julian Sorrell. God save us. He is the natural casting. He is the natural casting. Unfortunately, I know. God save us. The Fisher King says, "Hi, Steve, new viewer here. Oh, I thought I didn't recognize your name. I was watching your gunfight at Book Corral video today and was cracking up at your answer to Cormac McCarthy duel. Could you please do a Blood Meridian read along? Everybody wants me to do a Blood Meridian read along. Since my absolute devastation of the road, everybody wants me to do the same thing to Blood Meridian." DZIGN says, "I watched the new Frankenstein. It's fantastic." Yeah, I wasn't sold on it myself. I've only watched it the one time. It certainly wasn't. I wasn't sold on it, but maybe I need to watch it again. The Big Shep says, "Steve, I'm looking for a thrilling / harrowing autobiography or memoir. I've settled in part of Geronimo's autobiography. Do you have any further recommendations along this line?" Along what line? Along Geronimo lines, or along thrilling / harrowing? Because they're not the same, right? I like, for instance, thrilling / harrowing autobiography or memoir. What about Darker Than Midnight? By he was a writer for the TV show Alf. But now I've got this iPad. I can look up anything. What a book that is, though. Oh my. I should be able to remember his name, but I've got streamer brain. Oh no, it's not. It's not Darker Than Midnight. It's Permanent Midnight. Okay. Okay, it was made into a movie. Oh, Jerry Stahl. Jerry Stahl, Permanent Midnight. You might want to try that. Boy, oh boy. It'll stick with you. Daniel's YouTube channel says, also thoughts on Malcolm Muggeridge. In my opinion, he was a truly great man and writer who's sadly been all but forgotten. I don't know about the great man part. He's a heck of a writer. Yeah, I wish that his books were in print. Mex Libris says, hello, Steve. Please recommend a book that made you cry. Books don't make me cry. So sorry. I've read some sad books, but I've never read a book that made me cry. Must read more says, I like the Failsafe book, except every time someone said big board, I thought of George C. Scott and Darkness Straight. Right. You read Failsafe, the book, I suppose, talk about the movie being better than the book, but I was going to say watch, but if you read Failsafe, you see how eminently parodiable it is. It's serious, heartbreaking, but it is so begging to be parodied. anyway, Rasmus Carl Jensen says, are there any novels that portray what it feels like to live in 2020's United States? Not that I've read. Rumham says, books don't make Steve cry. A Kipling poem might make him tear up. Yes. Outgoing. Us, thy dears go by. Yes, there are some poems that will do it. Colombian Thunder says, I just finished Grendel by John Gardner and loved it, although I definitely think some aspects of it flew over my head. Can't wait to reread it. I'm a big fan of the author and of the book, so I'm glad you liked it. Let's see here. DZIGIN says, Steve, let's not be humble. You've read at least a million. No. A million books? No. Gandhi says, looking forward to Josh Ireland's book, The Death of Trotsky, the true story of the plot to kill Stalin's greatest enemy. Yeah, I have it here. But of course I haven't got to it. It's next year. Tolstoy 111 says, with the ongoing Australian theme, do you like Janet Frame? No, I don't. Sean Patrick says, speaking of Zhivago, Omar Sharif and Julie Christie in one movie. Huzzah, is it getting hot in here? Calm yourself. Shelly Swearingen is here. Hey now, Harry is the cutest schnauzer on YouTube. Also, where is Frida? Frida is right next to me, as usual. She is never far away from me now, except when I leave her. She is never far away. None of this hanging out elsewhere that she used to do. Urban Kristen says, do you think the aphorism, etc., in Dorian Gray are meant to be insightful, smart, or are they mostly tool of characterization? They could be tools of characterization. I'm not a big fan of the book, so I'm probably not the person to ask. Let's see here. 2 for a $5. See, these are names I don't know. Hi, Steve. Slightly related to your Irish starter kit. Any thoughts on Chris Petit's The Psalm Killer? Picked it up recently and have high hopes. I don't think I know that book. Nilix says, thank you for your advice, Steve. Geronimo would have absolutely loved you. Yes. Yes. Right. That is true. He would have, and I would have loved him. I wish I could help. This is not, you know already 2 things about this, that they get blurred on Christmas cards. Or not Christmas cards, but sympathy cards. They get blurred by everybody who likes to blur these things for their own self-preservation. But there are 2 things about it that you know perfectly well. One is that it's going to be your decision. There's going to come a day when you're going to say, today I say goodbye to my friend. My choice. That's one thing. And the other thing is that no one can really get in there to do it with you, to feel it with you. Even your closest, even your nearest and dearest, it's still going to be solitary. You just have to do it and bear it. And you can. You absolutely can. But it is, those 2 things, they're tough. Anyway, Colombian Thunder says, my fiance's dog passed away unexpectedly recently and was very difficult for us. Before that, another dog to cancer. It is never easy. No, it's not easy. That reading guy says, David Murphy stopped making videos and now writes Substack posts about his reading. What a nerd. What's wrong with Substack? I have a Substack myself. You're all welcome to go over there. And he might make a video again. You never know. Nilix says, Steve, is Nostradamus worth a read? No. Sean Patrick says, Steve, have you ever had to tell a close friend that they'd written an absolutely awful book? Yes, I have. California says, what are your thoughts on the deaths of Dick Cheney? Do you have any recommended books on him and the evil deeds he committed while in office? The best book that I've read on him is not about him alone. It's They Marched into Sunlight by Moranis, Maranis. And he's just one character in that. He's scathingly brochetted, but he's not the only character. My thoughts on his death, he inspired a whole bunch of personal affection on a personal level for a whole bunch of people, but he did a whole bunch of evil in the world and precious little good. If you have not seen the movie Vice about him, you absolutely should. It's incredible. Just incredible. Colombian Thunder says, a bit off topic, but curious if you saw one battle after another. I thought it was a slight return to PTA pre There Will Be Blood. Wonder what you think, though I suspect you didn't like it. What was your first clue why I didn't like it? Yeah, I've seen it. It stinks. What was your first clue? So many clues to pick from. That reading guy says, I wish schools had a strict policy against electronics because it's impossible to get students interested in history or reading if they can't stop being on their phones. Well, schools should definitely have a no electronics policy. Absolutely, that is true. They should absolutely have a no electronics policy. And maybe I am underestimating that challenge since I never had to face it. The only reason I sound a little skeptical is because I used to, a long time ago, I used to hear from people all the time saying, oh, well, this particular class, that particular room, you're never going to get them interested in anything. And it was never true. It was never true. I could always get through to them. Always. And no, usually it didn't take all that long either. Usually it just involved me not insulting them, not insulting their intelligence, not treating them like prison inmates. But things are no doubt more complicated now. Gandhi says, why are UK book covers so much better than the ones here, specifically the ones for The Director by Daniel Kelman? No idea. Shaw says, Steve, what are your opinions, if any, on Hassan Piker? Who doesn't have opinions about Hassan Piker? Who doesn't? Just that stupid workers collective coat that he was wearing on his trip to China, just that alone made me wish that they would arrest him and imprison him for life. Just for that. Just for that. Just how insulting that was. Showed that him, 7 feet wide, 70 feet tall, walking around this brand new, vaguely communist style jacket, just underscored what I've said many times, which is that streamers aren't real people at all. They're even not even cartoon characters. The minute you see them out in the real world, they look nothing else but preposterous. Always, all of them. I have never liked how insulting he is to his audience, getting up and leaving the camera, almost never being on camera when he's not stoned off his ass, eating while he's talking, so his mouth is literally spilling pieces of food while he's trying to make points that he considers important. So I never thought much of him anyway. And then there was that whole dog shock thing and the gaslighting that he tried to do, saying that I watched the video. I talked about it at the time in an Irish Stew video. I watched the video. Anybody can watch the video. The dog did not catch a dew claw. That dog did not yelp because of an old tennis injury or anything like that. It's just my opinion of him was low to start with, and it just plummeted then. Daniel's YouTube channel says, also, Steve, thoughts on PG Woodhouse? They don't make them like him anymore. I love Woodhouse, of course I do. The Big Shep says, I was convinced that I Am a Barbarian cover was done by Frazetta when I got it, but I found out it was done by Boris Vallejo. Oh, okay, Boris Vallejo then. So you did get that one with that cover. I don't think it exists in any other cover, does it? That Reading Guy says, why do you celebrate only 2 holidays throughout the year? Why July the 4th and January the 1st and not Christmas? Well, I don't celebrate July the 4th anymore. So it's just New Year's. I don't know, though. Christmas never seemed to do it for me. I try to be generous all year long. That was a lot easier when I was able to mail books to people. I'm going to have to find an alternative to that. But I try to be generous all year long. Giving money to the dog shelter, giving gifts and money to people who need them or want them. I don't know. It's just never taken. I just have the one holiday now. Edward Gibbons says, do you have a favorite translation of the poems of Propertius? Yeah, but I'm not going to remember what it is. Well, actually, let's see if we can find it. It's an odd shaped paperback called Charm, and it's terrific. This is great having tech like this. That is Charm. Not properties. I don't want to flip a house. Is this the one? Oh my God, did I find it in the first try? I did. Vincent Katz, Katz, is the name of the translator. I don't know if that book's still in print, but boy, oh boy, is it good. Oh boy, is it good. Must read more says, is Saramago's History of the Siege of Lisbon worth the read? The run-on sentences have put me off twice now. Yeah, you're going to have to get used to that with him. I did not like the History of the Siege of Lisbon myself. I've liked other things by him a lot better. But he is doing that stylistic thing, and you either get used to it or you don't read him. DZIGN said, I heard Under Heaven was fantastic. Currently reading The Lions of Al-Rassan. I didn't like The Lions of Al-Rassan much at all. I thought Under Heaven was incredibly good. Sean Patrick says, Steve, I remember you saying that Gene Wolfe was a poor storyteller, and I don't understand what you meant. Do you mean in his writing or in person? I think when I said that, I meant in person. Jovan says, what's your favorite Flashman novel? I think Flashy gets better the higher the stakes are that he can screw up. So maybe Flashman and the Great Game. I don't know. It's been a long time since I should read through that whole series. Maybe Flashman and the Great Game. Maybe that. Danger Kid is here. Wow, I'm late. I'll have to watch the replay. Steve, quite apart from The Man, is Louis C.K.'s debut novel worth it? The Big Chef says, do you have any good stories you'd be willing to tell from whatever time you spent in Southern Oregon? Southern Oregon? Well, I don't know what stories I could tell. They were in Southern Oregon, actually in Oregon pretty much generally. It was all outside. It was all out in the wilderness with my dogs, which was wonderful. Has lots of memories, but there aren't many stories involved, if you know what I mean. It's just, all of us putting one foot in front of the other, finding shelter, finding food. I don't know that I have any stories. I don't think I spent any time there with any humans. That reading guy says, how was this year for new releases? A good year or a poor year? Pretty poor year. Pretty poor year. Lots of standouts, but the median average was low. Gandhi says, you're picking on me, Steve. I am. It's true. Only because I love you. O'Callahan says, I want you to do a Stella Maris read along. LOL. By the way, what did you think of James Gunn's Superman? I'm not going to do a Stella Maris read along. But Blood Meridian, I should do a 4-part breakdown of Blood Meridian. I really should. Too many people have asked for that. And I loved James Gunn's Superman. Loved it. I loved it. I loved it before it came out to theaters, but I love it even more now. I think it hardly put a foot wrong. And there are a couple of scenes with Crypto, who, keep in mind, I've waited my whole life to see on the big screen, that I thought were absolutely perfect. DZIGIN says, when you mentioned Alf, I was scared it was when I was a kid, the puppet was real to me. Well, Permanent Midnight is a scary book. Definitely. No matter how you thought about the cartoon. Sean Patrick says, Steve, I've read Siddhartha and would really like to read the rest of Hesse, but I read Left Me Cold. Should I keep at it a little longer or bail? The rest of him? You read all the rest of him and you didn't like any of it? Didn't like the Steppenwolf? Didn't like the Glass Bead game? You read all the rest of it and didn't like it? Well, okay. If you read Siddhartha and really liked it, then you're going to like Damien, at least. But, if you're sticking with an author, you definitely don't read one novel after another of an author and dislike them all. Definitely don't do that. The chat jumped. Here, let's go back to where we were, although we have to wrap things up. Keep in mind. There we go. Penny Wright says, have you read any of the Warhammer books? If so, which were your favorites? It's not quite a have you read question. We'll allow it. I've read a couple, but I don't have any favorites. I don't know the lore. That reading guy says, what are your first impressions of next year's new releases? Is there lots of books with potential? It doesn't look like a strong year, but it never does at this point. So David Bergen says, have you decided what we're going to get for Poetry Thursday this week, or will it be a game time decision? The idea that I have in mind for Poetry Thursday this Thursday is to do a speed run through 3 or 4 genuinely good poems remaining in the book. And then the following Poetry Thursday, the last Poetry Thursday, will be the thing itself, and then we'll wrap up that way, so that you end on a positive and a negative note. I've thought about that. I don't know. That would make Poetry Thursday this coming Thursday. That'd make it pretty long. But I don't think anybody would mind. The 4 people to watch it, I don't think they would mind. Sean Patrick says, Steve, is Gunter Grass dude bro? No. They don't know about him. Stephen Newton says, not a fan of Trek, but last year I read Doctor's Orders by Diane Duane and loved it. Diane Duane would be a near second for me after Diane Carey. Leo Picard says, what about Christos Cholkas for the Australian? Oh, is he Australian? Well, there you go. Then there's an Australian writer that I like. There you go. I know I'm supposed to say The Slap, but I love Barracuda. That is just a terrific, disturbing book. Jovan says, yesterday I saw Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life on my girlfriend's night table. Am I, as the Zoomers say, cooked? She wasn't reading it, was she? Oh, God. Take it away from her. Control your woman. Think about what a lobster would do. Daniel's YouTube channel says, Steve, on a more personal note, what are your thoughts on where we're headed as a society in terms of the decline in reading? I'm 28, and among all my friends, I'm the only one who reads. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody. We get all sorts of encouraging little stories about, hey, this is so much fun, or reading parties, or look at the success of Book Talk, or whatnot. I don't know how much time you've spent looking at Book Talk, but what they're doing over there is not reading. It's not at all. It might lead to it down the line, but no guarantees for that. No, the horrible phrase was post-literate. We are firmly ensconced in a post-literate world. which is pretty sad and pretty frightening. Andrew says, does Australia have writers? Yes, some of your favorites. Clive James, Robert Hughes, Helen Garner. I guess I do like all three of those, I suppose. J. Scott Phillips says, someone just mentioned Kipling. What about a Kipling read aloud? That would be fantastic. You're twice canceled already, so why not? Well, it's too late for any read alouds. I'm only going to be here a couple more weeks. So Salem Hill says Dan Brown, but without context. Sean Patrick says, Steve, I'm not much of a Trek reader, but came across a slew of original series pocketbooks from the early 80s. How do serious Trek readers rate these books? Very unevenly. This is before there was any kind of governing body determining canon or a series Bible or whatnot. So it's very uneven. Some of those books are really good, and some of them are an absolute waste of time. I was going to say you could check on Goodreads for aggregate likings, but really you should check with me. That's what counts. That reading guy says, I wish you would write about your approach to teaching. Some people cannot rely on sheer personality alone. Well, if you're not relying on personality, if you're not relying on personality, then that means you're not relying on passion. The two are synonymous in a classroom. And if you're not relying on passion, then you're relying on authority, which is a terrible way to teach anything. I don't know how much of that is clear, but if you're not relying on personality, then you're relying on coercion. And that's why students resist. That's why they become so blank-eyed and mulish. Now they probably become blank-eyed and mulish because they're vaped off their mind. They're on drugs, literally on drugs. But in a totally straight edge world where there are no drugs, the reason that they get refractory and mulish is because they recognize coercion and don't like it any more than you do. But anyway, Coldifornia says, what are your thoughts on the film adaptation of The Man Who Would Be King with Sean Connery and Michael Caine? I thought it was my favorite book adaptation next to The Muppets Christmas Carol. It's terrific. It's absolutely terrific and much better than the story. Perfect example. And is there anyone in the world who's going to tell me that Dickens' novel, A Christmas Carol, is better than The Muppets Christmas Carol? Is anybody going to say that? No, of course they're not. Tolstoy 111 says, Sean Penn's performance in One Battle was off-putting. He did not resemble an actual human being at any point. Well, he had that in common with everybody else in the movie. It was as effective a movie about aliens as Galaxy Quest. I kept expecting the characters to say, "But grab Thar's hammer." I kept expecting that. Anyway, Urban Kristen says, so for Dorian Gray, you might think it's bad, or do you just dislike it? Could you say why? It was okay for me, but I was rolling my eyes at the barrage of clever sounding nonsense. I think the book tries too hard, way too hard. Sean Patrick says, Steve, my New Year's resolution is to start a BookTube channel, and I want to thank you for that. At least I think I want to thank you. Yeah, you deal with some of the ups and downs first, but do me a favor. If you're going to start, I encourage you to start a BookTube channel, but do me a favor. If you're going to start a BookTube channel, search your heart first to make sure you aren't starting a BookTube channel to become a millionaire. Search your heart for that. Don't say, oh, no, I would never do that. Search your heart to make sure that isn't true. To make sure that you don't want to blow up like a meteor that is driven by 1,000 A-bombs. Make sure you don't want that before you start. Drew's model says, hi, Steve. What do you recommend for a one-volume history of the Vietnam War? Max Hastings' book is fine. I see. Oh, Max Hastings has one. Yes, that's good. It's good. Yeah. Have you done a Vietnam War starter kit? No, I have not. Colombian Thunder says, I was always ambivalent about Hassan Piker. I've seen things here and there, but what really struck me was that he never seemingly apologizes or takes accountability for anything. He thinks that he's completely infallible. He thinks that anything that he says or the first thought that he has about any subject is perfect. Unrevisably perfect. Which is, he's young and a massive stoner and also became a worshipped cultural figure and a multimillionaire when he was in his early 20s. So that's understandable. I'd be willing to cut him slack for that, but shock collars are barbaric. Colombian Thunder says, not once do I think he's ever taken a pause and reflected on his actions or on what he says. No, as far as he's concerned, he's already got everything figured out. That's why I really wish that the Chinese had arrested him for that coat. That reading guy says, what will you be reading tonight? I'm assuming new releases are done for this year. They are indeed. They are indeed. I will be reading Malgudi tonight, almost certainly. Almost certainly, probably to the exclusion of all else. Cool Dom says, Charge and Great Game are the peak of the series. Is that Flashman, I think? That reading guy says, if new releases get increasingly poorer in quality, do you see yourself moving from book reviewing? You dedicate a lot of time to bad books, a subject that came up when Sam was visiting just recently. Something that we talked at great length about. I don't think I could give up new releases, but it could radically change the shape of my year-end list. Keep in mind, you don't know this, but my year-end list started out with top 10 fiction, top 10 nonfiction, and that's it. No worse, and no subcategories. I think I'm going to sneeze. I could easily see things going back to that, but not for a while. Gretchen Fowler. I no sooner said your name than the chat jumped. So let's find you. Oh my God, there are a lot of people. We're not going to be able to get to all of these because we've got to go. There we go. I just read Isaac Bashevis Singer's The Golem, a novella, and was wondering what you thought of it. If you could recommend other Golem literature. I don't know of any other Golem literature that I could recommend, except for no, I don't. But I liked it. I tend to like Singer. DZIGIN says, do you like Thor Eternal Saga? Is currently mixed for me. No, I don't. Cold, but that's because I don't like the Eternals. Marvel should have either siloed them off in an alternate reality and not let Jack Kirby bring them into the mainstream Marvel reality, or just not told them, no, we're not interested in this one. Do something else for us. Coldifornia says, what is your favorite Shakespearean tragedy and your favorite Shakespearean comedy? For the comedies, it's very boring. It's probably Much Ado About Nothing. For the tragedies, it's Julius Caesar. Urban Kristen says, I also want to hear your breakdown of Blood Meridian. The judge annoyed me in a similar way to Henry from Dorian Gray. J. Scott Phillips says, if you're down to celebrating only one holiday a year now, perhaps consider Talk Like a Pirate Day. I'd pay real money for a Stevestream for that next year. No idea that there'll be Stevestreams next year. Gandhi says, do you have a favored lamp / lighting for reading? Well, I just have these green shaded banker lamps. That's all I have, just these standard things. Pat Lilster, I lost my dog of 20 years a few weeks ago. Basically grew up with him since I was an adolescent. How do you manage your emotions when your first dog died? Well, my first dog died a very long time ago, and I wasn't as good at managing my emotions then. But you get through it. You just do. You just do. The key, I don't know why we keep going back to this somber subject. The key to understand is that grief is like a sickness. It's like the flu. You realize that you're coming down with the flu, and then it fully develops and you have the flu. You feel miserable, but you don't say, I'm going to jump off a bridge. You don't say, oh, I'm never going to get better. You don't say those things because they aren't true. It's the same thing with grief. Even the deepest grief in the world, you eventually recover. It's unlike the flu. There's a psychological element. When you start to recover, you're going to start to feel a little guilty about that. You're going to feel like the grief is a tribute that you should keep paying. That's not true. That's not true. That's very unhealthy. You will recover from it, like the flu. Coldifornia says, what are your thoughts on the Maigret series by Simenon? I love it. Just love them. They have their highlights, but I love them. Talon Tanky says, hi, Steve. Do you have a favorite Georgette Heyer novel? What do you think of her historical fiction novels? I think she's wonderful. Just across the board, I think she's wonderful. My favorite, I don't know that I haven't read them recently enough. First of all, I should reread the whole of them. Somebody on BookTube is rereading the whole of them, everything that she wrote. I'm trying to remember who that is. The only ones that I'm reading now are the murder mysteries for Deadly December. But I remember loving the Nonsuch a lot. I know that a lot of people do. I really should. It's been too long since I read them. I really should reread them. Danger Kid says, Steve, is Donald Kagan's 4-volume set on the Peloponnesian War worth reading if I enjoy the one volume popular abridgment? I ordered them, but the versions that showed up are print-on-demand junk. If you enjoyed the his one volume, then yeah, because he goes into enormous amount. It is a masterful thing. I was kind of hoping that I would see the 4-volume set at the Book Barn the last time I was there. I don't think I did. I can't imagine print-on-demand junk. I'm so sorry that you went through that. Rumham says, that strategy for Poetry Thursday sounds great to me. I was thinking of that. Sort of a very abbreviated highlights reel of like 4 poets before the final Poetry Thursday. And then we'll move on. If I'm doing this next year, we'll move on to some other anthology. DZIGIN says, do you like the new Stranger Things season? Not particularly, no. Music Fan says, I'm reading Clay Reason's The Red Scare and really enjoying it. So many parallels to current times. That reading guy says, we aren't snobs on BookTube until someone brings up Jordan Peterson. I'm not a snob towards Jordan Peterson. It's just his book is really dumb and very hurtful, very harmful. Better that it be dumped in the trash. Dylan says, speaking of Poetry Thursday, I recently read some Edna St. Vincent Millay for the first time, and I absolutely loved it. Steve's recommendations never lead me astray. Isn't that nice? I was just reading. Who was it? I was just reading someone on Edna St. Vincent Millay and how everyone fell in love with her, even birds. Oh, it was Edmund Wilson. I read Edmund Wilson on her, and he was just rhapsodizing over her. Let's see here. Reading Pathway says, speaking of lamps and lighting, that's been my number one revelation about e-reader convenience, lighting. I never really noticed how often the lighting for print reading is simply inadequate. Yep, the e-reader takes care of that. It provides its own lighting. Coldifornia says, where should I start with John Brunner? Shockwave Rider, I would say. Start with Shockwave Rider, and if you like it, then you can move on to The Sheep Look Up or Stand on Zanzibar. But Shockwave Rider probably would be the place to start. That reading guy says, could you read aloud a few of your favorite short stories? Washington Irving, Hawthorne, Melville. But of course, you haven't read them. My bad. Well, I couldn't do it. We're almost out of time this year. I'm not gonna start any of that, but those are possibilities, certainly. And Auntie Gaia says, Steve, do you recommend Romantic Comedy by Curtin Sittenfeld? Yeah, I'd recommend. It won't hurt you. Your reading time is so precious, and it is a sea-level effort from a good author. But Alexandra says, Golem novels, Marge Piercy's He, She, It. Okay. The Street Medic says, wow, a Stevestream. Yes, but we're ending the Stevestream. We're not going on forever. Winston Vidal says, where did you go to college? It's always been my dream to go to college. Cosmic A says, hello, Steve. What am I more psychotic for owning? The 8-volume set of the Duke of Wellington's Dispatches or Metternich's 5-volume set of memoirs? The Wellington. Sell it right away. 2 for a $5 says, thank you for recommending The Killer Angels. Several times. I'd recommend it all the time. It's the only novel I've enjoyed most this year. Thoughts on Storm Over Land by Carl Sandburg as a general war overview. It's not particularly good. Wish it were. Seems like a natural fit. If you're going to use time reading Sandburg, read his Lincoln. Jonathan says, Steve, what are your thoughts on P&V translations? They've been quite maligned as of late. I've never been a big fan of them. They always seem to be more about the translators than about the book. But I've enjoyed some of them. There are chunks of their War and Peace that I like. Coldifornia says, is Cry the Beloved Country good? I don't think so. I know that's absolute heresy. We'll have to hope that Mike from Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance is not here. What are some recommended works on the history of South African apartheid? We should go to Mike's channel, Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance. I think he's done a video on apartheid. Cosmic A says, Steve, do you have any thoughts on the book Camp of the Saints by Jean Raspail? The Trump movement loves it. Well, you can see why they love it, right? They know that they can't really come right out and say that they love the Turner Diaries. But they can mention Camp of the Saints. It's slightly more coded than the Turner Diaries, but it's loathsome. Chat jumped again. Oh my God. Coldifornia says, recommended books on the Cuban Missile Crisis. I read the chapter on it in Dark Sun by Richard Rhodes, and that alone has been bone-chilling revelations. Well, it depends on how deep you want to go. Michael Beschloss, for instance, wrote the Crisis Years, gigantic book that has as its centerpiece a long, very lovingly detailed excavation of the Cuban Missile Crisis. You also probably don't want to miss Bobby Kennedy's book on it. And there are a bunch of others. It depends on how deep dive you want to go. And don't ask for a starter kit of the Cuban Missile Crisis. DZIGIN says Galaxy Quest is cringy but nostalgic and dear to me. Me too. I don't see the cringe. It's brilliant. J. Scott Phillips says the movie of The Man Who Would Be King is what first got me interested in Kipling. I agree the movie's better than Kipling's original, but now I want to see the Muppet version. Casper says, how many indie books do you typically read? At least one a day. At least one every day. I review one indie book a day for money. So it's at least one a day. And then you add on to that whatever I might get from Kindle Unlimited or those ebook daily deal sites. It's quite a bit. I probably read 400 of them a year. The one that I'm reading tomorrow is called They Called Me God. It's a graphic novel, I think, about Jesus. Cosmic A says, Steve, do you think Edmund Burke's writings are overrated? Many American conservatives praise him, but it's important to remember that he was supportive of George III later in life. I love his writing. I love his writing style. That reading guy says, I recently got Donald Kagan's 4-volume history for free as an ebook on Kobo. Yeah, but I'm wary about the maps. It all works well on Kobo. I don't have a Kobo at the moment. Gandhi says, I'm surprised that the lamps you mentioned give off sufficient light if you are reading on your couch. They do. Monet says, I'm reading Falling for You by Becky Wade. Street Medic says, whatever you think of Edmund Burke's writing or philosophy, he was hugely influential and you should at least be familiar with him. Portagoon says, hi, Steve, love your videos. A long time ago, you recommended a book that compared different religious texts / Bibles. Do you know the name of the book I'm referring to? Thanks. Well, it could be a lot of things. Probably the thing I'm thinking of first is the Viking Portable World Bible, which does exactly that. It is brought out as a mass market paperback. I don't think they ever reprinted it as a trade paperback. And it is a collection of the world's sacred texts all together. Selections from the Old Testament, the New Testament, and lots of other things. It could be the Viking Portable World Library that you're thinking of. MNNWER. Oh no, I missed the Stevestream. You better do another one equally long tomorrow. Gandhi says, I loathe winter as my favorite reading place is sitting on my balcony. Yeah, and I'm being told by local meteorologists that I'm not going to be able to read on the balcony this week, which seems unbelievable to me. Cosmic A says, is it fair to attack Queen Victoria for colonialism? No. That reading guy, how many indie books will make your year-end list? Precisely 0. Colombian Thunder says, I really wish I could read a book a day. I'm cursed with slow reading. I would consider reading a book a day to be a curse. That's for sure. Oh my God. That's terrifying to think about. Street Medic says, not a fan of book burning, but if I'm cold and out of firewood, the Turner Diaries would be a good substitute. Portagoon says, thanks. That's the one, you're the best. That is the one, the World Bible. Andro says, just to add the e-reader discussion, Kindle has been so amazing for reading while at college. I don't like to carry much with me. Just having my Kindle and phone for articles is perfect. Yeah, they're so convenient in every way. That reading guy says, how many movies have you watched this year? Any highlights? I've watched a lot of movies this year, and there have been highlights. Yeah, Nosferatu, The Stranger, the black and white adaptation of The Stranger. Edward Alex says, no pressure, but would be awesome if one day you did a Tsarist Russia or Russian history starter kit. Thanks for your videos. Well, we still have 10 days left for starter kits, more than that. So I can put it on the list. MN Wur says, and by the way, what are your thoughts on the statements from NASA regarding 3i Atlas? They seem to me to be backpedaling. I wouldn't be surprised if they know more than they're saying. Their statements don't seem right at all. They seem tense. Roomham says, thank you for recommending Patriotic Gore. Could you give a further recommendation of one of the books he covers Sherman's memoirs caught my eye. Yeah, probably Grant's memoirs. Sherman's memoir has a brand new annotated edition that your library will certainly have. It'd be worth your time if that already interests you. Cole DeFornia says, "What are your thoughts on Godzilla -1?" I loved it, absolutely loved it, and also people from this channel will remember that I was praising it before it went to theaters and everybody else loved it. I got a streamer for it and praised it like crazy, and none of you believed me. I said, "This is incredible," and none of you believed me. And then it came out in theaters and everybody praised it. And it's not the first time that's happened either. That's happened a number of times. Let's see here. Comsic A says, "Steve, do you fear that one day physical copies of books will be obsolete?" In America, sure. That reading guy says, "Any updates on Deb? Does she still exist?" She still exists. She has guinea pigs. She decided to add guinea pigs to her life again. So she had a habitat built for them, and then went out and got 3 piggies. Street Medic says, "I estimate that I've read about 4,000 books in my 67 years, but Steve reads that since breakfast." Well, not since breakfast, but in the 20s, certainly. Colombian Thunder says, "Steve liking a black and white The Stranger." Who are you? I know. I don't know how many times I've watched that movie. Jasper, I don't even know it has an American distributor. I don't fancy that it would. Jasper says, "Kobo's Instapaper feature, which lets me send articles to my e-reader with a single click, is so nice." Yeah, I keep wanting to get a Kindle, Kobo. I don't have one right now, and I might like one. I want the old Kobo H2O. I don't want a Kobo Color. Maybe one of you has an extra Kobo that you could send me, but maybe not. DZIGIN says, "Muppet version of anything is good." I agree. Street Medic says, "What about the new Frankenstein movie?" I wasn't in love with it. Pat Telstar, "Will you be seeing the new Hamnet movie?" I have it. I have the screener for it, but I haven't watched it because there's no Kryptonians. There's no flying dogs. I probably will watch it though. Yeah. Gandhi says, "How is it possible that you don't need eyeglasses or contacts?" Don't get me started. If anybody listening to this stream afterwards who's been here, David Murphy or Christopher Russell or Sam, they're all saying, no, don't get him started on the subject. I used to wear glasses. I used to need them. There was not a mild prescription. They're in the drawer out in the kitchen. You could take them, put them up on your eye. You'll see how badly I needed them. I don't need them anymore since COVID. And I'm not going to harp on the subject. I don't want to be Alex Jones, but it is indisputably true, and I don't have an explanation for it. No one I know has an explanation for it. I needed them, and I don't anymore. So anyway, David Bergen says, "I am trying to read a little faster. I've eliminated sub-vocalization as you suggested. Do you have another good tip for moving a little faster?" After that, it's just concentration. That reading guy says, "It can be hard to be passionate when teaching when there's a curriculum that restricts you." Yes, very much so. I can imagine that. Canadian history can be a bore. Yes, Canadian history is crashingly dull. Yeah, it's crashingly dull. And yeah, you're up against it there. I never had to face that. And I never had to face drug-addled students or students who had their lawyers on speed dial or that had electronics of any kind. So I imagine it's much harder now. Cosmic A says, "Is Women and Men by Joseph Melroy a dude bro book?" Boy, oh boy, is it. It's really good, but it is. That most of them have not discovered it, but it is really, really good. Yes, and it is definitely dude bro. Flora should be reading. "So happy to have caught its stream. Thoughts on Lex Luthor in the new Superman movie? I really like the actor's performance." Yeah, it was the first time ever where the writer decided to try to give Lex Luthor a motivation, a believable motivation. His motivation for far too originally he was just evil for the sake of being evil. Then he had the silliest motivation of any villain anywhere, which is that he blamed Superboy for causing his hair to fall out. He can invent giant robots and space-spanning communication developments, but not minoxidil. This movie actually gives him at least something of a motivation, something like the one in later iterations of the comic books. That reading guy says, "What do you think of the dumb 6-7 gimmick that kids find funny?" Yeah, it's from what I hear, It has totally taken over their world, and they cannot speak without it. It doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't have any meaning. So I don't know what to make of it. Drew's model says Steve doesn't need glasses, does not require sleep, reads 1,000 books a day because he is not human. Not human? What on earth are you talking about? I'm perfectly human. Except for how well I can resolve images in what you would consider complete darkness, or no sense of touch, or my sense of smell, or my sense of hearing, or my blood type. Yeah, I'm completely human. I don't know the answer for why I don't need glasses. I'm not going to go conspiracy theorist and tinfoil hat, but that is demonstrably true. I used to wear glasses and I don't need them anymore. But anyway, Street Medic says, what's the optimum number of books you should read simultaneously? I only read one at a time. And Gaia says, Steve, reading Mirror in the Light lately, even though he's a minor character, I've always feel sad for Patch, the jester. Did you have the same reaction? Well, doesn't Mantell go out of her way to forestall your sympathy towards him, to make him seem like sort of a sad sack of his own invention? He was such a minor character that I didn't really invest much in him. Gandhi says, interesting about your eyesight. Did you get a COVID vaccination? Yes, I did. I got a COVID vaccination, and because you had to wear a mask and it would constantly fog up my glasses, I started taking them off and leaving them off for longer and longer. And then suddenly I realized that I could read those train sign platforms or those highway signs or spot people in dogs at a long distance without my glasses. And suddenly I could do things that I needed them for before. I'm not saying COVID. I'm not Alex Jones, but this is not, oh, I changed my mind about something. This is a physical thing. Anyway, Cosmic A says, are mass markets an endangered species? I think so, yeah. Street Medic says, we brought our lemon tree in from the winter and now it's flowering, I suppose you mean. That reading guy says, are you from Krypton? No. And I'm not from Gallifrey either. In just a few weeks, people are going to be asking if I'm from Gallifrey, and I'm not. Colombian Thunder says, Steve fixed his eyesight just because he wanted to. He's that powerful. No, there's no Chuck Norris jokes here. No, I don't understand it. I'm not going to harp on it. Every time I've had a guest over and it's come up, I have expostulated and then moved on. I'm just saying, I don't have an explanation for it, and no one that I've talked to has an explanation for it. And it is demonstrably true. But anyway, Jasper says, I'm assuming you were farsighted before. You likely began to develop cataracts with age as you approach 29, which canceled out your nearsightedness with a phenomenon called second sight. I don't have any cataracts. Thanks, but I don't have any cataracts. Alexandra says, would you consider David Zalai's Flesh a Dude Bro novel? Well, it's certainly poor enough. So it could be. That reading guy says, it must be the Mega Stuff Oreos that helped your eyes. I know. It sounds ridiculous. But I won't say ask David Murphy because he's not on BookTube anymore. But he has actually seen what I'm talking about. He held my eyeglasses up to his own eyes and said, oh my God. Okay, so you really needed these. This is a serious prescription. But he has also been in cars with me where I've spotted something a million miles away and said, what's that? So he has seen the anyway. Monet Doyle says, are you going to do some Christmas book reading? I doubt it. That reading guy says, one more bean watch before we go. Well, she hasn't moved. She's right next to me. She hasn't moved. She won't until I ask her to. She loves to press against me. It's not quite cuddling. It's the German version of cuddling. She doesn't actually snuggle and cuddle or anything like that, but she doesn't like to be anywhere away from me. Anti-Guy says, is it safe to say that Hegseth is in deep doo-doo? He's committed murder. That's usually deep doo-doo. He's committed war crimes. He should be in deep doo-doo at The Hague. But he is, at the moment, totally shielded by someone who is not accountable to U.S. law. So it's totally dependent on whether or not that someone decides to cut him loose. He's not in the kind of deep doo-doo that commentariat channels on YouTube are saying. The commentariat channels are once again completely fooling themselves about some incoming Democratic victory that will change everything. They're once again doing that. I watched them ramp up to do that with Hillary Clinton. They ramped up again with Kamala Harris. They're doing it again. He's definitely not in that kind of deep doo-doo. He's never going to be held accountable by law. So unless he's branded a war criminal by the International Criminal Court, in which case he won't be able to go to certain places. He doesn't seem to have any interest in leaving the United States, though. So the only way he would be in deep doo-doo is if he is served up by the boss. The boss has no loyalty, so he could do it. But right now, Pete Hegseth has everybody talking about that and not the Epstein files. So Flora should be reading says, agreed about Luther finally having a motivation. Also, did you recommend Ken Burns' new documentary on the American Revolution? I do recommend it. It's really well done it's a typical Ken Burns production. The alt-right neck-bearded quasi-fascist dude bros on YouTube are going nuts about it. They hate it because they say that it's incredibly woke. And although it's not incredibly woke, I do see what they're saying. The American Revolution was conceived, put into practice, fought in the courts, fought in the courts with a capital C and the various legislatures of the world, and fought on the battlefield, won, negotiated, codified into a new constitution entirely by white men. Entirely. 100% entirely done by white men. And you can't tell that story now. You can't do it. You have to say that what I just said is factually wrong. I know a whole lot more about the American Revolution than Ken Burns does or any of his researchers do. All of it, every step of the way, was done entirely 100% by white men. No women, no Native American people, no black people, free or slaves. They had their roles to play. They are definitely paragraphs in the story, but the whole of it was done by white men. So do I recommend it? Sure. It's a Ken Burns production, but keep that in mind because it's going to try constantly to tell you that's not true. I hate even to come that close to agreeing with the neck-bearded quasi-fascists, but they definitely recognize something, which is that you are being sold a program in what was supposed to be a documentary. Anyway, Street Medic says, your eyes can change with age, just like anything else. If some of the changes can be beneficial. I've never heard of a change like that being beneficial. I know that eyes can change with age, but when have you ever heard of someone's eyes improving with age? I've never heard. If that happens, I've never heard of it. That certainly seems to be true. The closer I get to 29, the closer that seems to be true. Cosmic A says, did you agree with Wolfram Seaman's view of who Metternich was? Is it Seaman who said that he was a vampire? I tend to agree with that. Stephen Newton says, I know it is new, but do you have an opinion on Superman Adventure Compendium? Is this the big volume of the comic book? I'd probably really like that. Is there like a big anthology of the Superman Adventures, the old kids comic book? I might like to get that if there was. I don't have it though. I read all the issues. They're terrific, absolutely terrific, pure Superman. If we're talking about the same thing, that reading guy says, "Did you ever have to sign a test as a teacher? What is your opinion of tests?" I had to do it. Yeah, I didn't like it at all, and I had conversations with my students. I didn't just talk at them. I talked with them. I would say, "Look, I don't like tests any more than you do. I don't like quizzes. I don't like anything like that. But listen, let's talk about this. You're here because this is a program that is it's supposed to help you. I'll do my best to make it something you enjoy, but it's supposed to help you. You definitely shouldn't skip on it. I'm telling you this because I'm further down the road than you are. You definitely shouldn't blow this off. But think about my position and also the position of the school. You're all here together. You're all completely different. You're all universes unto yourself. They need some way to quantify it, some way to measure things. So they have to have quizzes. They have to have tests. That has to happen. So if you will help me to get you through that part of it, we will have lots of conversations. I will make these subjects interesting to you. I will show you why you should be interested in them. But the practicalities of being here, there's nothing I can do about that. And something you can do about it either, except, just face them head on. I did have to assign tests. Yes. I talked with my students about them. Gandhi says, I found it curious that there was no commentary from Ron Chernow in the documentary series as he won the Pulitzer for his biography of Washington. Yeah, he probably didn't want to share the spotlight or was too expensive. And I'm grateful for the talking heads that we had, because in 30 years, the talking head is going to be Jack Edwards. So I'll take what we got. I just had, the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, well, okay, but anyway, California says, do you like the Three Stooges? Of course I do. Not Jimbo says, yes, the most logical explanation would be that your lenses changed for the better. But how does that happen? When does that ever happen? The body has only one reaction to entropy. Tolstoy 111 says, one of the sillier notions that the Ken Burns film entertains is that the U.S. Constitution was influenced by the Iroquois Confederacy. I know. That's what I'm talking about. The whole of it, everything important about the American Revolution, and also the change in government, the war, all of it was entirely done by white men, not by women and not by anyone else. And I'm sorry if that seems racist or bigoted in some way to say, but that is the simple truth. There is no alternate timeline of history here. There is no alternate version of the American Revolution that we somehow just weren't taught because our teachers were all evil. Anyway, Salem Hill says, no more distance glasses for me since turned 68. Hard to believe, I know, but it's true. God help us, really? Gandhi Angle says, P.S. I know you're not a fan of Chernow's book. No, I'm not. Jasper says, I had a teacher tweet about our class bombing a test he wrote, which included math problems translated by him out of Polish. As if math weren't bad enough. California says, what's your favorite book on Ulysses S. Grant other than his autobiography? I don't like his memoirs. Gene Smith wrote a terrific biography of Grant. Actually, Chernow's book on Grant is not bad either. But Gene Smith wrote a book on Grant that is really, really good. Let's see here. Poon Dog says, hi, Steve. How are you today? I'm reading Earthlings at the moment, but I find it a bit boring. What did you think of it? I am fine. And I also thought it was a bit boring. Gandhi says, did I misunderstand? I thought you said you didn't go to college. How did you teach? Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, isn't it? I just wandered into the room. I always dreamed of teaching. That reading guy says, Steve, you were not by a carrot. That must explain your stellar eyesight. I think that was mistyped. It's a myth anyway, but I think that was mistyped. I don't know what the explanation is. I am hearing in the chat. Hey guys, hey fam. I'm hearing in the chat from the super chats that I'm reading. Of course, I'm ignoring everything. It's not a super chat. I'm hearing from the chat that this does happen. I've never heard it before tonight. Stephen Newton says the Superman adventures were made alongside the 1990s kids Saturday morning cartoon. I know that. I read the comic, but it sounded like you were saying that they've been assembled into a Michael K. Vaughan style gigantic omnibus. And if that's true, I don't know about it, and I would probably like to own that. Cosmic A says, since you are a Star Trek fan, what is your opinion of that show's fandom kick-starting slash fiction back in the 60s through fancy? It's so nice of you to imply that I never wrote any of it or that I don't remember it. I'm embarrassed. I was embarrassed at the time, but it was all we had. Andro says, I'm reading the Gene Smith Bush biography right now. It's quite enjoyable. Ricky Jarvis says, Steve, did you see the new Superman movie? I did. I loved it. That reading guy says, I recently read Startide Rising and it was amazing. I was afraid it would leave me behind since I've read very little science fiction previously. Good science fiction won't leave you behind. I'm glad you liked it. It is terrific. I really need to reread it. Anti-Guy says, I know it sounds too forward, but we should all do this more often, meaning the Stevestream. Nothing forward about that. We're having a lot of fun, but we do have to wrap things up. Street Medic says, I love math, especially Klein. Stephen Newton says, yes, the Michael K. Vaughan just was gifted a copy. Given a copy, you mean. He was given a copy. Well, then such a thing does exist, so I want it. Me want it. Karen says, what do you think of Zinn's historical takes on the American Revolution? They stink. I could go on and on about Howard Zinn. I could go on and on about him. Flora Should Be Reading says, are you excited about the upcoming Supergirl movie? We'll see if it happens. That reading guy says, is the rest of the Uplift book worth reading? Yeah, they are good. Gandhi says, very cagey on your college answer. Oh, thank you. I was wondering if anybody would notice. And TW says, do you think you will do the Bible read-alongs again? I have no idea. No idea at all. I'm only going to be around here for a couple more weeks. So obviously I'm not going to do it in 2025, and who knows what 2026, who knows. Street Medic says, yeah, Zinn is bad, really, really bad. He is. Among many other sins of his, he actually is the only person ever to drive me to defend George Washington. I'll never forgive him for that. Poondog says, I'm debating with myself whether to read Leonard and the Hungry Paul or True Grit. Which one should I read? True Grit. David Perkins says, you don't like euphemisms, but you say wrapping things up, which we all know means there's another hour to go. No, I really do have to wrap things up. We really do. Columbia Thunder says, around here a couple more weeks. Yeah. So I'm not going to do any major YouTube projects like reading the Bible or anything like that. Ricky Gervais says, I read a little bit of Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs on Project Gutenberg. I found them really boring, so I DNF'd it. I kind of found them boring too. No offense to Mark Twain. And finally, That Reading Guy. We will wrap up with That Reading Guy. You might need to explain your year-end tradition of disappearing. Nah, I can't explain it. I've long since given up on explaining it. But I'm going to wrap this up. This was wonderful. This was 2 hours, though. I thank you all for this. Was just wonderful. I remembered how to do it. We stayed in form. Chat, guys, fam. It was wonderful. So I'm going to wrap this up, but we will do this again before I disappear. So this week sometime, maybe tomorrow. You never know. But I'm going to end this before I just keep going. I will see you soon. Thank you all so much. Oh man, I forgot how much fun that was. That is just so